Hey guys, good morning. So, I'm talking about my labor and delivery experience with Rosalie, and just as a precursor, I feel like since Mother's Day was just, well, yesterday for me, but it was just this past week, I want to be aware of all the people out there the women out there who want to be mothers, but they're not. This is a very one-sided view, and I don't talk very positively about my experience because it was hard for me, even though I know there might be some people out there that might just die for my hard experience to have a kid. So, just a little disclaimer. Anyways, I left off talking about when the specialists advised me and my OB advised me to go ahead and induce labor, and they were trying to figure out when my due date was. There wasn't any major reason to induce other than the fact that she wasn't growing, and so they wanted to make sure, her lungs were as developed as they could be. I went ahead and got steroid shots, and I believe I was 36 weeks at this point in time. I went to the specialist, came back to my OB to review what the specialist said, and the OB was like, okay, what day do you want to get induced? And it's just like, let me look at my calendar. Curtis is like, oh, I get to choose, let me see what day is busier for work. And we chose the day, and then apparently you're supposed to fast before getting induced. Dude, pregnant ladies trying to fast. What? No, doesn't work. As a matter of fact, they tell you to eat frequent small meals. At least that's in the beginning when you're really nauseous, but I think it applies to the whole pregnancy. You're supposed to eat very frequently. Anyways, you're supposed to fast because there's the possibility you'll need surgery, right? And your stomach being empty is preferable, and you don't want to aspirate and blah blah blah. So my OB said I could have breakfast. So I did, had breakfast, and then we checked in to the hospital at 4, I want to say it was 4 p.m., and they weighed me, they put me into a hospital room, they gave me an IV. Dude, you think going in to have a baby, the IV is going to be not a painful experience? It's like a straw. They stick a plastic straw up in your skin, and they're like, this will pinch a little. It hurt. Then they got the baby monitor on my belt so they could monitor the baby's heartbeat. Rosalie was so small, usually you're ooh, and the baby's all pressed up against you. No. Since she was so small, I would literally do a teeny tiny shift, and they'd be like, oh, they'd have to come back in and figure out the monitor, you went off the monitor and we don't know where she is, and then have to find her and okay, so that was fun. That meant I felt like I had to not move an inch, okay, so they'll know my baby's alive. I'll just hold very and I was starving. Okay, I had breakfast. It was 4 p.m. 5 by the time they got all the IV and stuff figured out. And I was starving. I was so hungry. I'm not one to deny myself food when I'm hungry. So hungry. The OB came in. His office was connected to the hospital. There was an air, what do they call that when there's not stairs and it's got a street in between. There's an air bridge. That's what it's called, an air bridge between his office and the hospital that I was being induced at, which was really nice. And he was like, we want this to be as much of an Instagram labor and delivery as possible. Ask for an epidural when you need one. And I am very pro epidural. I feel like modern medicine, Sierra, yes, we will make sure that Sierra ever wants to have a baby again. So, I was like, okay, that took some anxiety off of me to know that, I could ask for pain relief whenever I wanted or needed it. And he left, and they put this cervical ripening agent up against my cervix to thin it out. Before, when I had gone into the office, when we decided on the date to induce, I was already 1.5 centimeters. So that's kind of what prompted us to go ahead and induce soon. My body was already getting prepared for delivery, even though I was 36 weeks at the time. So so they put the cervix thinning agent up against my cervix, and that wasn't like uncomfortable. I didn't feel it at all, except for it did start contractions. I had awful cramps growing up, and I felt like that really helped prepare me for what contractions were like. They kind of feel like period cramps, and except for I never had back cramps on my period, and it felt like it would go down and contract in the front and then like sort of like wrap around before the front contraction was over to my back, and maybe I'd have like a second and it just got like more strong, like more fiery feeling, if that's like the right term. I remember asking my nurse, like, hey, like, when will I know when to ask for, there was like one pain pill that they were going to give me to get some sleep, and then my epidural. I was like, when do I don't know when to even gauge. And I was so nervous too, being at the hospital. I was like, I don't even know what labor's like, let alone being induced. Like, this is an unnatural process to try to have a baby naturally, like vaginally. And I was just not okay with it. I was really nervous. I knew it was necessary though for Rosalie's health to induce. Anyways, I asked the nurse, like, do I know when? And she's like, oh honey, you'll know, okay? I was like, okay, I guess I'm fine then, because I don't know now for sure if I need pain relief. Through the night, so I checked in at 4, you know, like 9, 10, 11, you know, I was watching TV, drooling at Cheerios commercials because I was just that hungry. I don't even like Cheerios very much. I would eat all the Cheerios if I could eat Cheerios. Starving. So they would check to see how far along I was every so often. This might be TMI, but you've had sex, right? Well, I feel like when they check to see how dilated you are, I mean, it's like the fingers, and then like even farther than you thought possible that could go up there. Like, please hold a hand. If you're going to get to see how far along you are, like if you're dilated, please hold a hand. I thought I was like, oh, this is no big deal. Oh, please hold a hand. It made me turn red in the face. It was uncomfortable. It was painful, especially when you're not dilated at all. Like, there's no opening. You're pressing against nothing that's open. And for me, 1.5 centimeters, I think was like a finger and a half. Yeah, that's, especially when you have to get all the way up there with this part of your hand. Finger and a half's not much, okay? Very uncomfortable. Woman's hands, much more comfortable. Let's move on from that. I was somewhat progressing. I think by the time I took my pain pill at like 11 o'clock, I was about 4 centimeters dilated. I was very uncomfortable, and the pain medicine just made you like really loopy, and I slept from 11 until 4 in the morning, and at 4 in the morning, you know, hot, searing, crampy feelings woke me up. I started to feel really painful and uncomfortable, and Curtis was still sleeping. I didn't want to wake him up, but boy, did I end up waking him up. I was in so much pain. I was sweating. Like, you know when you're in a lot of pain? I was like hot. The room was at 65 degrees, and Curtis had like a hoodie that he like pulled the string so that like only it's like these parts showed through. And I was to the point where that nurse was like, honey, you'll know when you need an epidural. And I was like, oh my gosh, please, me, give me an epidural now. And I wasn't like terribly, I think I was still only 4 centimeters along, not necessarily progressing, but that's like right on the brink, I think, to where they'll give you an epidural. And I was promised an Instagram delivery, so they started calling my OB, and for some reason I could not get a hold of him. I used the same OB for my my other baby, Margot, and that was not an issue, but for some reason it was. Like, I'm pretty sure as a nurse, and when a physician is on call, you have their office phone, you have their cell phone, you have their home phone number, and they could not get a hold of him. Like, I know it was 4 in the morning, and I think I asked them to call like around 5 at that point, and nope. So I think from there the nurses like tried to avoid my room because I was like screaming. Contractions, there was no like breath, like there was no like wave. It didn't feel like a wave that ever came down. It was just like a wave, then another wave, and another wave. Like, have you ever been in the middle of like, what is it called? Whenever you're like literally in the wave like this and it just keeps like crashing and crashing and crashing and crashing and crashing on you? That's what I felt like. And every time the contraction would kind of like lessen up in the front, it would like kill me in the back. I didn't even think back labor could be that painful. It is. It's awful. The nurse would come in and I'd be like, did you call him? Did you get hold of my OB? And they'd be like, no, we can't seem to get hold of him. And I'd be like, ah! And poor Curtis, like, I know that I have blocked out a lot of the painful memories of having a baby and being in labor. Like, the brain is a powerful thing, and Curtis did not have, he wasn't personally going through any of this, so I know that his memory was better than mine. And he felt so bad. It was like holding my hand. I think I was breaking his hand. There was no like, let's change positions, because I couldn't. They couldn't get Rosalie on the baby monitor if I moved much, and it was horrendous. I was breaking Curtis's hand. Finally, so I've been up since 4 in the morning with painful contractions, dying around 5 in the morning, and finally at 10:45, the doctor, so the nurses were waiting on the doctor's order. He had a practice open, I'm sure, at 8, so I have no idea. I can't even comprehend why they weren't able to get a hold of him before like 10 in the morning. I don't understand. Anyways, they got a hold of him. The orders came in for me to get an epidural, and I was like, I would take anything, like literally anything. I also remember my acid reflux being really bad. It was bad towards the end of my pregnancy. Like, I just felt like a fiery dragon. And just bring your own Tums, okay? You can take Tums when you're pregnant. You can still take Tums when you're in the hospital, and they'll have to you'll have to wait for the pharmacy to fill your Tums prescription. Like, just bring your own Tums. Anyways, I was dying. The epidural order came in. I was actually at this point like so relieved, but my contractions were so painful that like when I felt that extreme wave of pain, like I was fighting back whether or not to like barf at that point. I had nothing in me. I hadn't eaten since the previous 4 p.m. Like, there was nothing in my stomach, yet just the urge to throw up. I think that's just what my body does when it's in extreme pain. It's like, you need to vomit. I'm like, I've already talked about vomiting too much on this channel, doing this in my other video. Like, even while the anesthesiologist came in, I was like holding my bucket, or not bucket, it's like a little trough, square bucket thing, at least that's what we had in our hospital, to like throw up in, and they're like, okay, let me know when it's in between a contraction, and you're like leaning over, like everything's painful, and you're like having to like curve your back so that they can make sure they know where in your spine to stick in the needle, which is also another straw, just a skinnier one. And the epidural went in, also painful and very uncomfortable. It's crazy. I was throwing up because I was in so much pain, yet the epidural was still painful. Just like it's a different type of pain. Just see her as just a little bit of a wimp, I guess. So my epidural starts to kick in. It wasn't immediate. I still was having really painful contractions. Finally, on the left side, the epidural worked like, I don't know how, but left side, like, you know, waist down, like 100%. No, I think it was my right side, 100%, and my left side started working like barely any. Like, I could still feel really painful contractions that I'd have to like not breathe through but moan through, whereas before I was screaming through, so I'll take moaning through. And my parents were actually there, like in the waiting room. I didn't want anyone else in the room except for Curtis, because I'm married to Curtis. He better be able to see me get through this. That was my reason for not having like my mom or my mother-in-law in the room. But when the epidural started to kick in, my mom went ahead and came in and Curtis left. He was probably like so emotionally abused at that point, seeing me go through so much pain. Oh, and I thought I was gonna go into the hospital with like my makeup on, and I was wearing like waterproof mascara, and it was like gonna last. I was probably gonna be sweaty, but it was still gonna be cute. Dude, not cute. Not cute. My mascara was like streaming, not streaming because it's waterproof, but like spread everywhere and impossible to get off. My mom came in, she's like, let me help you with your mascara, which I was grateful for because it was just like, I had no idea. And my mom was so sweet. I had like lotion in there, and she gave me like a foot massage and a hand massage, and the nurses gave me this peanut ball. It's like, you know, the exercise balls that are like completely circular. This is like a wider ball where it's kind of got like a divot in the middle, like a peanut. And I was laying on my left side with my legs over top of the peanut, so that the epidural would drip more on that side. I told you it's a straw. Medicine's dripping on like something to numb numb you. Anyways, laying on that side, and mom was like getting massaged with my hands and my feet, and I was finally starting to like relax because it was just so painful. They called the OB, my water broke, I was dilated, it was like time to push, and my epidural was working well enough that I didn't have like any urge to push or anything like that. That and Rosalie was like tiny, so I wonder if like the urge to push, I don't know. So all of a sudden my room fills up with like Rosalie's NICU nurse, head lady, this lady, like a million nurses, my OB, everyone who was there for like my delivery, which included like 4 people. I think there ended up being like 10 people at least in our room, not including Curtis and I. And they like took out a part of my bed. That's why those beds are so uncomfortable. My legs are up in the stirrups, and they like take out part of the bed. Very uncomfortable beds. So they tell you to wait for a contraction to push, which makes sense. Like, things are pushing on the inside, so you should be pushing with it, right? Like, make it a stronger, more efficient push. And so I did, and on my second push is like slip aside. And that was it. I did not tear. Curtis got to cut the cord. I think I got to hold her for a few moments. She was tiny. She was so small. She was 3 pounds, 5 ounces, and 15 inches. She was this, not terribly like, she was like this kind of small. She was like a regular length, but she was tiny. 3 pounds, 5 ounces, that's nothing. Then they took Rosalie to the NICU, and Curtis left with her because I would have gone with her, but I wasn't ready. Like, I was still in the stirrups, you know. I birthed the placenta next, which was no big deal. Oh my gosh. Yes, you have to push it out. No, it's not a big deal unless you like it's adhesed or stuck to some sort of part of you internally, which mine was not. Oh my gosh, I peed on the OB. Okay, so let me tell you. When I'm in labor, after you get your epidural, they put in a catheter. Totally forgot about that for a minute. It was not uncomfortable. I was already mostly numb, and I could care less at that point, to be honest. And after I birthed Rosalie, they took out my catheter, and I mean, the catheter goes all the way up into your bladder and like empties your bladder, right? So you'd think there'd be nothing in it. Oh, there's always something in it. Because when I pushed out the placenta, which felt like a baby push, I like peed. My doctor has this tray, you know, to catch the placenta, and actually he wanted to test it to see if there was any particular reason why Rosalie was so small, and he used it to guard himself. He's like, shield himself from the pee coming his direction. I did not poop on the table. I almost peed on my OB. Yes! And then afterwards, Curtis was like, do you remember, like, he was trying not to laugh, but he's like, do you remember that you peed on the OB almost? And I was like, yes, thanks so much for bringing the one part up that I can remember really well. I think he blocked all the pee and I didn't actually pee on the OB, but it was going his direction. He was right there. My mom was so sweet. Since Curtis left with Rosalie to the NICU, my mom came in and she helped me take a bath. I tried to get out of the bed to take a bath, and the nurse was like right there, and I could feel like someone on my left side, but I'm right hand dominant, like, so like my right foot is also dominant, and when they went to get out of the bed, I almost fell. The nurse did not like preemptively like hold on to me. I was like just gonna like try to get off the bed myself, I guess, as I couldn't feel my right side at all. And you still have muscles that work. I couldn't feel them. I was so itchy. I don't know what it was about either the Pitocin or the epidural that like my skin felt like itchy everywhere, and I felt kind of buzzy and shaky, and my mom came in, washed my hair, like my whole body. I felt like I just had a baby and was like up since 4 in the morning, and then I felt clean and like way more put together. They told me I had to like poop, I think, before I could go see Rosalie. I was so starving. I got a vendor machine sandwich. They got me my sandwich. I devoured that sandwich and pooped, and Curtis came back and wheeled me in a wheelchair back to Rosalie in the NICU, where I got to hold her and almost passed out. Don't know why. Could have been exhaustion. I sat down so that I didn't drop my 3-pound, 5-ounce baby onto the floor. Yeah, I'll have to talk about my NICU experience in my next video. If you've been enjoying these videos and enjoying seeing my family, and you want to see any of the next upcoming videos, which include my sister's room reveal, go ahead and subscribe down below. Leave me any comments if you think of a video you'd like to see, or if there's part of my story that doesn't quite make sense to you, and I will try to answer you or maybe make a video about it. And yeah, have an amazing day. It feels so good outside right now, but I know it's gonna get so hot. Bye guys.